This story is entirely fictional and created for entertainment purposes only. While it references real geopolitical situations, the characters and events are fictional and do not represent the actual experiences of North Korean defectors. In Kirkenes, a small town in northern Norway located on the Norwegian-Russian border, an unusually cold winter was in full force. Magnus Carlsen, the 64-year-old mayor, was adding wood to the fire in his cabin as he did every evening. Outside, a blizzard raged with temperatures plummeting to 20 degrees below zero, but Magnus was accustomed to such conditions. As the mayor of Norway's northeasternmost border town, he had witnessed countless harsh Arctic winters. 3 decades of public service had etched deep wrinkles into Magnus' face, but his blue eyes remained sharp and alert. His wife Sarah had passed away from cancer 5 years ago, and his 2 children had long since moved to Oslo and Tromsø to begin their own lives. Now, only his faithful hunting dog Freya kept him company. Magnus had served as mayor for 15 years, earning the respect of residents in this border town on the edge of the Barents Sea. Kirkenes' economy relied primarily on iron mining, border trade, and fishing, while in recent years, Russian-Norwegian border tours had also attracted numerous tourists. As the administrative head of a border region, Magnus maintained close ties with border police and military personnel, often handling sensitive border matters. That night, the blizzard was more violent than usual. Magnus was preparing for bed when he suddenly heard knocking at his door. In such weather, few people ventured outside, let alone visited his remote residence in the dead of night. Magnus cautiously opened the door to find a young woman covered in snow and shivering uncontrollably, collapsed on his porch. "Please, help me," the woman said with a strange accent before losing consciousness. Magnus quickly carried her inside, closing the door against the biting wind. He placed her on the sofa and noticed she was wearing an unfamiliar military uniform stained with blood and dirt. As he carefully removed her coat to check for injuries, he discovered a gunshot wound on her shoulder. While not deep, it showed signs of infection. Having lived in a border region for years, Magnus immediately understood the situation. In recent years, occasional Russian citizens had attempted to cross the border into Norway seeking asylum, but this woman's uniform was clearly not Russian. Upon careful examination, he found a small badge with Korean writing in an inner pocket of her clothing. "My God, she's North Korean," Magnus whispered in astonishment. As mayor, Magnus knew he should immediately contact border police and immigration authorities. However, on such a stormy night, the phone lines were down, and the woman clearly needed immediate medical attention. Magnus had served as a volunteer medical aide in his younger years and possessed basic first aid skills. He carefully cleaned her wound, applied antibiotics, and bandaged it. "I must be crazy," Magnus said to himself as he watched the sleeping woman. "I'll have to report this first thing tomorrow morning." The next morning, the storm had somewhat subsided, but snow had accumulated to the height of the porch. Magnus checked the phone and found the lines still down. His guest had awakened, weak but lucid, cautiously observing her surroundings. "You don't need to be afraid," Magnus said in English. "I'm the mayor of this town. Where were you injured?" The woman hesitated, seemingly assessing whether she could trust him. "My name is Song Mina," she finally answered in halting English. "I am from North Korea." Mina told Magnus that she had been a female soldier in the Korean People's Army sent to a secret facility in the Russian Far East for special training. There, she had accidentally gained access to outside information, learning the truth about the lies the North Korean government told its people. For months, she had planned her escape, eventually deciding to risk crossing through Russia, hoping to reach Europe and seek asylum. "My family, they starved to death." Mina's eyes glistened with tears. The government said it was because of American sanctions, but I learned the truth. I had to escape. Mina explained that she had endured a harrowing journey across Siberia, managing to board freight trains and trucks, eventually being discovered by Russian soldiers near the Norwegian-Russian border, where she was wounded. She had escaped in the confusion, crossing the border with her last ounce of strength, instinctively finding her way to this remote cabin. Magnus felt deep compassion. As a Norwegian, he had been raised to respect human rights and provide humanitarian assistance. But he also understood that helping an unregistered foreign military personnel could lead to diplomatic and legal complications. I must report your presence to the authorities. Magnus said, seriously, but I promise you, in Norway, you will be treated fairly. We have proper asylum application procedures. Fear flashed in Mina's eyes. Will they send me back? Magnus shook his head. Norway does not return anyone to countries where they might face persecution or death. That's our law. The blizzard continued for 3 days, trapping Magnus and Mina in the cabin. During this time, they began to share their lives and experiences. Magnus described Norway's democratic system, social welfare, and his work as mayor. Mina shared her upbringing in North Korea and how she had been selected for military service. Each conversation reinforced her belief that she had made the right decision. Despite the language barrier, Magnus found Mina to be intelligent and resilient. Her ability to learn new things was remarkable. Within days, she had mastered some basic Norwegian phrases. When the blizzard finally subsided and Magnus drove Mina to town, she was able to hum along with a Norwegian folk song playing on the radio. You're a natural linguist, Magnus smiled. At the Kirkens police station, Mina's arrival caused quite a stir. Officials from Border Patrol, immigration, and intelligence agencies quickly arrived. Magnus, as both mayor and the person who found her, accompanied Mina throughout the questioning, insisting that she be provided with an interpreter and legal counsel. This is due process, he firmly told the police. She has the right to fair treatment. After initial investigation, officials confirmed that Mina was indeed a North Korean soldier, and that her escape story was generally credible. Under Norwegian law, she had the right to apply for asylum. However, due to her military background and irregular entry through the Russian border, intelligence services needed to conduct a more thorough security review. We need to transfer her to the reception center in Oslo, an official told Magnus. There she will undergo detailed interrogation and identity verification. Magnus nodded but made a request. In the meantime, could she stay at our town's shelter? I can personally guarantee she won't flee. The officials exchanged glances and eventually agreed to this arrangement, considering Magnus' influence and credibility in the area. The condition was that Mina must report to the police daily and not leave the Kirkens town limits. Over the next few weeks, Mina stayed at the town's refugee reception center. Magnus visited her almost daily, familiarizing her with the town, teaching her more Norwegian, and helping her adapt to the new environment. The townspeople were initially suspicious of this foreign visitor, but Magnus' support helped them lower their guard. She just wants a safe life, like all of us, Magnus said at a town council meeting. As time passed, Mina began to find her place in the community. She volunteered at the refugee center, teaching English and basic computer skills to newly arrived refugees. Her diligence and positive attitude left a deep impression on the townspeople. 3 months later, Mina was permitted to work at a local cafe, provided she continued to undergo regular reviews. Magnus often visited this cafe, sometimes bringing paperwork to complete while he was there. Their friendship deepened, and Magnus found himself increasingly looking forward to their conversations. "Why are you so kind to me?" Mina asked one day. Magnus thought for a moment. "Maybe because you remind me of my daughter. she's brave too, or maybe because everyone deserves a second chance. 6 months later, Mina's asylum application received preliminary approval. She needed to travel to Oslo for final interviews, meaning she would leave Kirkens for a while. "I'll come back," Mina promised Magnus. "This has become my home." Magnus nodded, but felt an inexplicable sense of loss. He realized that over the past half-year, Mina's presence had become an important part of his life. Mina stayed in Oslo for 2 weeks, undergoing multiple detailed interviews and background checks. Finally, Norwegian authorities confirmed she had indeed fled North Korea for political reasons, qualifying her for refugee status. Additionally, the information she provided about North Korean military training proved valuable, further strengthening her application. When Mina returned to Kirkens with her asylum approval documents, the entire town held a small welcome party. Magnus watched her interact with the townspeople, feeling a strange pride and joy. "You look different," Magnus noticed. "More relaxed, more confident." Mina smiled and replied, "Because I can finally be my true self. In North Korea, we were taught to hide our real feelings and thoughts." With her official refugee status, Mina began planning her future. She enrolled in courses at the local community college while continuing to work at the cafe. Magnus supported every decision she made and often invited her to dinner at his home. One autumn evening, they sat on the porch of Magnus' house, admiring the northern lights above the Barents Sea. Mina suddenly took Magnus' hand. "I want to tell you something," she said softly. "During my time here, you've been more than just my friend and protector. I've fallen in love with you." Magnus looked at her in surprise, momentarily speechless. There was a 40-year age gap between them, and they came from completely different cultural backgrounds. But he couldn't deny that he too had developed feelings for Mina that went beyond friendship. "Mina, are you sure?" Magnus finally said, "I'm already 64, and you're only 28. You should have more options." Mina firmly shook her head. "In my country, we were taught to submit to the collective will, never considering personal happiness. Now I have the freedom to choose, and I choose you. You gave me new life, Magnus." Magnus took a deep breath. "I love you too, Mina, but this won't be easy. People will talk." "Let them talk," Mina smiled in response. "We've been through too much already, haven't we?" When their relationship became public, it indeed sparked discussion. Their age difference and Mina's background became topics of town gossip. Some questioned whether Mina truly loved Magnus or was just seeking more secure residency status. "How dare you think that?" Magnus angrily demanded at a town council meeting. "Mina already has refugee status. She doesn't need marriage to stay in Norway. We're together because we love each other, nothing more." Most townspeople eventually accepted this unusual couple. After all, Magnus had been a fair and honest leader for many years, and they trusted his judgment. Mina had also earned community respect through her efforts. Her speed in learning Norwegian was impressive, and she actively participated in community events. A year later, on a spring day, Magnus and Mina married in Kirkens's small church. The entire town came to bless the newlyweds, including some residents who had initially been skeptical, but were now touched by their genuine affection. "I never thought I would find love again at this age," Magnus said in his vows. "But Mina taught me that life is always full of surprises." Mina said, "In my darkest moment, you gave me hope and a home. I promise to return your love for the rest of my life." Shortly after their marriage, Mina discovered she was pregnant. This news was both shocking and joyful for the 65-year-old Magnus. Doctors warned that considering Magnus' age and Mina's physical condition, she had suffered significant physical damage during her escape. The pregnancy carried risks. "We'll be careful," Mina assured the doctors. "This child means everything to us." During her pregnancy, Mina sometimes had nightmares about returning to North Korea or being captured by Russian border guards. At such times, Magnus would gently hold her until she calmed down. "You're safe now," he would whisper in her ear. "No one can take you away." Mina's pregnancy attracted some media attention. A nationwide Norwegian newspaper published their story with the headline, "Across the Ice, a love story between a North Korean defector and a Norwegian mayor." The article sparked widespread discussion, with some praising it as an example of cross-cultural understanding, while others questioned the ethics of the relationship. Magnus and Mina chose to ignore outside voices, focusing instead on their coming child. When Mina went into labor, the entire town grew anxious. After 12 difficult hours, their daughter was finally born. "What should we name her?" Magnus asked, gently stroking his daughter's soft cheek. Mina thought for a moment. "Sophia Run," she finally said. Sophia means wisdom in Greek, and Run means hope in Korean. Let her have blessings from both cultures. As Sophia grew, she became a symbol connecting two worlds. She had Mina's black hair and eyes, but inherited Magnus' height and straight nose. She spoke fluent Norwegian, while Mina also taught her Korean, hoping that someday, if the Korean peninsula unified, Sophia could understand her roots. Magnus retired when Sophia was 3, passing the mayoral position to a younger generation. He and Mina bought a small house near the sea, living a peaceful life. Every morning, they would walk together, watching Sophia run on the beach. "Do you regret it?" Mina asked Magnus one day. "Choosing me, choosing this life?" Magnus shook his head, smiling. "Not for a single day. You gave me a second life, Mina. I thought I would spend my remaining years in solitude, but you and Sophia gave me a complete family." Mina leaned on his shoulder. "Sometimes I think about North Korea, about the family and friends I left behind. I don't know how they are now, but then I look at you and Sophia, and I know I made the right choice." As Sophia grew, she became increasingly curious about her mother's past. Mina answered her questions as honestly as possible, neither hiding the dark realities of North Korea nor allowing hatred to occupy her daughter's heart. "One day, when borders no longer exist, when people can come and go freely, I'll take you to see where I was born," Mina promised Sophia. Not the North Korea of today, but a peaceful Korea of the future. Magnus and Mina's story became a small legend in Norway, a tale of love transcending age, culture, and political barriers. Locals no longer viewed Mina as that North Korean soldier, but called her our Mina, a mother, a community member, a woman who found freedom and love. When asked about his greatest achievement on his 70th birthday, Magnus didn't mention his contributions as mayor or the various honors he had received. Instead, he looked at his wife and daughter and simply said, "Finding them is my greatest achievement." In this small town on the Arctic edge, an unlikely family found happiness, proving the resilience of human nature and the power of love. Their story became a symbol of hope, demonstrating that even in the darkest moments, new beginnings are possible. And whenever the northern lights danced in the sky, Magnus, Mina, and Sophia would stand on their porch, hand in hand, gazing up at this natural wonder, grateful that fate had brought their paths together in this remote northern town. In those quiet moments, Mina would sometimes softly sing a Korean folk song about coming home. And for her, home was no longer a place on a map, but wherever Magnus and Sophia were, a haven defined by love rather than borders.